With October past, we're now moving into the month of November, and in just a short while, the majority of our trees will lose their leaves, and we'll be looking at bare branches. But it's a great moment still to get out and see the last color and the trees that hold on to their leaves longest. Let's take a look at red oaks again, and their acorns, and then black oaks, and then bur oaks, and then after that we'll just take a little walk in the garden. Here's a big red oak, has a classic oak leaf. Red oaks have pointed lobes, so you can see that there's about 7 to 9 major lobes, and they each end in a point rather than the rounded lobes of the white oaks. So that's your red oak leaf. I'll show you later the red oak acorn, but take a look at the bark. You can see that compared to the smoother bark of some trees like the beech and the tulip poplar, this has a deeply furrowed bark, so it's really distinctive in that respect. And this is a really big red oak, so it's nice to see a mature tree, really big red oak, big leaves up top, but that's the classic form of your red oak leaf. So get a good look at that, and that's actually the outline that you want to identify red oaks. Here's the red oak acorn on top of a red oak leaf, and I showed you these before in the Laurel Hill Cemetery when the squirrels were just kind of chewing on them but not really eating them. But I want you to notice in particular the length of the seed or the nut, and then that tight cap on top with really small scales. I think it looks like a little beret, and I want to have you look at that because I want you to contrast it to these other acorns. These leaves look a lot like red oak leaves. In fact, in walking across them, you might just assume that they're red oaks. But they're not. They're actually the black oak, Quercus velutina. And it's tricky to tell black oak and red oak apart by their leaves. But the acorns are a real giveaway. The acorns are really diagnostic, and you can tell right away if you're looking at a black oak because the acorn is so different, and you see them there. But I want you to see them here too. Here's an image that simply puts side by side the black oak acorn on the left, and you can see the scales on the cap. I say they look like a thatched roof. They're longer scales, it's a very different cap, and on the right, that smaller tight beret of the fine-scaled, smaller cap on the red oak acorn. So it's neat that here's a pair of oaks that, although they're not that easy to tell apart by their leaves, and you might mistake them for each other, if you look on the ground and find some acorns, you'll know right away from the acorns whether it's a red oak, Quercus rubra, or a black oak, Quercus velutina. This is our magnificent Bur Oak, Quercus macrocarpa. What a great name. We call it the Bur Oak, Bur, B-U-R, but Quercus macrocarpa, its scientific name, macro for big, carpa, carpal fruit. So it means like the big fruited oak, because the acorns are really big. This Bur Oak has really huge acorns. So I'm going to walk over, I'm going to show you a couple things about the tree. Of course, this is right next to our Blackburn Library, and is our state champion tree is a Bur Oak. And so let me actually get you a little bit of a look at the leaf and some things on the trunk, and then we'll continue that. So here's the Bur Oak leaf, and you can see what really stands out about it is that it has this really great big pair of sort of indentations, or it's like someone pinched it right here in the middle. So there's a big cutout on this side. These are all Bur Oak leaves, but we'll just focus in on these few for the leaf shape. Here you can see the lobes, the big rounded top, and then the big cutouts. That I would call classic Bur Oak shape. This one's a little bit irregular. That again I would call classic Bur Oak shape. Cut, cut, rounded top, rounded top. So yeah, the Bur Oak leaf looks like it's been two different leaves merged together with a big top on a sort of narrow triangular base that has another cutout there. Quercus macrocarpa, these are all brown golden leaves now at this point in October. This branch was cut after it had fallen to the ground, and that was one of the ways we were able to date this tree. It fell off about 20 years ago, and when it did, we did count the rings, the growth rings of that branch, and got 180. So we also know from where that branch came out that that would have emerged from the oak tree when it was in the first 20 years of its life or so. Gives us a pretty good estimate as about a 200-year-old tree. So this is a tree that would have been sort of beginning somewhere around the War of 1812 time, after 1800, but probably before 1820. The way this is healing over now shows trees' ability to heal a wound where it's actually growing what's called callus tissue over the cut surface. Here's where a branch came off that's completely healed over. So the bark has completely covered up what once was a cut mark. And again, if I come over here, here's another. This was actually a branch cut off that would have been a clean cut. It healed over with time. But that one from 20 years ago, you can see is still in the process of growing across with that healing tissue that comes from the bark. So that's the base of the bur oak. And again, we'll just take a peek at some of those leaves.